So this first presentation seminar here is really to focus on some of the opportunities and the challenges for the insurance market kind of posed by this new technology. We've got a great panel, people involved in kind of the use of this technology in the market, so that's absolutely fantastic. In terms of housekeeping, we'll be about 35 minutes talking through some of the issues and experience, leaving about 10 minutes for Q&A at the end, under strict instructions that we keep pretty much to time, so we'll do our best for that. Who am I? I'm a partner at Clyde & Co, international law firm, very much focused on insurance, both in London and around the world, but also I'm one of the founding partners of Clyde Code. We didn't pay a penny for that little pun on words there, which is our smart contracts consultancy. I know what Gary just said. Gary's also involved in Clyde Code, so I'm happy to take the caveat about smart contracts, but it's really looking at how, from a legal perspective, how you ally the legal issues with the technology. I'm of the old world, it's the paper, the time, what have you, but I'm really excited about the prospects, both for new opportunities within the market, but also for creating value and efficiencies. And I think given Brexit and what have you at the minute, the importance of the London market, which is at the heart of what we do as a service provider, is crucial at the minute. You're not going to hear much from me. I have two tips for those of you who are new to this area. I think one is be a little bit skeptical. Blockchain is not the answer to everything, although if you Googled it, it would look that way. But secondly, slightly kind of inconsistently, be open-minded. Again, you might roll your eyes, the lawyer in the room telling you to be open-minded. But I started out looking at this just at blockchain of a very narrow focus in terms of contract law and the implications, and that's really blossomed into being a bit of a geek for kind of decentralized and distributed network, and that's led into tokenized crypto kind of economy. And that means we're fortunate enough to be involved in some really exciting new product development within the market. I can't talk about much of that, unfortunately, because of client confidentiality, which is why I'm moderating and not on the panel. So I think that's enough from me, and I'm going to ask each of the panelists first to introduce themselves, really, who they are, their background in the insurance market, and what they're doing now, and then we'll run through some areas. So, Peter, do you want to go first?
Good evening. I'm Peter Temperley. I'm the Chief Product Officer for Blocksure. I've spent the majority of my career working in the insurance industry. I started off in the early to mid-80s auditing insurance companies and brokers, rapidly moved on to financial control, then moved on to managing small IT departments, then moved to larger brokers and did some program management of developing web-based systems. Then I moved into operations excellence, then back into financial control, data MI. All the way through that journey, I encountered reconciliation as a huge administrative waste, whether you're an insurer, a broker, or a reinsurer, London market, or general, it just didn't matter. It was a huge problem. I then moved to Accenture for 2 years, and I was privileged there to work with some very bright guys at Swiss Re to work on their proof of concept for blockchain. And we did that down in Antipolis in France. It gave me some real expertise, really experience and exposure to how blockchain can address some of the problems in a reinsurance contract environment. And that then moved on into the B3I world. I left in April and joined Blocksure in August last year. Blocksure is a technology company. We are focused on insurance sector. We've developed a platform based on blockchain and distributed ledger technology to allow brokers, intermediaries, MGAs, underwriters, loss adjusters, compliance to access the power of the blockchain distributed ledger technology to eliminate much of the administrative burden that comes from the insurance supply chain. It's real. Come and talk to us. We can do demos. And the MGA arena for us is incredibly important. So that's me. Thank you.
You didn't tell the most exciting part about Blocksure. They have paying customers. Yeah. So that's also true for us. My name is Stefan Karpiszek. I'm one of the co-founders of EtherRisk. EtherRisk builds decentralized insurance applications, and we too have paying customers. And in the blockchain world, that's an exciting thing, and we are very proud of that. So we started this journey in 2016. My background is in banking. So before that, I was working for UBS here in London at level 39. And applying blockchain technology to banking. Yeah? But corporate innovation is such a thing. It's not really innovation. It's much more a public relations stunt. And we were much more interested in building stuff that people actually use. That's what we did. Flight Delay is our first product that is out there. And as I said, we had paying customers, so we sold about 100 policies. And the interesting thing that you should take away, we are replacing what you are doing with a very small piece of software that is running on a public blockchain, on public infrastructure. And we can reduce, to sum it up in 2 sentences, we are reducing the development costs for a new insurance product by a factor of 100. And we are reducing the operational costs for running that insurance business by a factor of 10. We are now opening this up. We are building an open source protocol, which is available for free. And we are inviting you and many others to come and build insurance businesses on this protocol. If you're interested to learn more about that, I'm happy to talk about that later.
I'm Ingmar. I am the CEO and founder of IX Ledger. We are a blockchain. Yes. Is this better? Yep. Okay. I'm Ingmar. I'm the founder and CEO of IX Ledger. We are a blockchain solutions company targeting insurance. We don't have any paying customers, but we're very happy anyway because we did an ICO. But we're getting there. So my background is actually in fintech, banking. And one of our approaches is to apply some of the technology advances that happen in banking and so on to insurance. The platform we're providing is all about connecting people and connecting businesses and using the medium of blockchain, not Blockshore. So we believe that blockchain can actually add a lot of value, which you could get without blockchain, but the blockchain makes it so much easier.
Great, super, thank you. So in light of all of that, let's kind of the first topic, and Peter, maybe if you want to kick us off, what elements of the market do you think are kind of ripe for, I use the word disruption, by kind of being with this technology to be utilized?
Great, that's an opportunity for me to talk for a very long time. Essentially, if you think of the insurance supply chain, you start off with a policyholder, you have a broker, you have an MGA, you have a series of insurers. At each point in that supply chain, invoices are raised, bordereaux are produced, statements are given, payments are made. At each point, companies are re-inputting data. They then struggle to understand what data they've been given in the statement by their counterparties. And they then have to reconcile. They have to check every piece of data. Until reconciliation has been completed, settlements get held up. And it doesn't matter whether it's premiums coming through, brokerage being taken, commission being taken, or claims being paid. The payments get held up. Incredible waste in terms of the money that's being held. So I would say that the prime areas in the insurance supply chain is that administrative burden. As to what sectors are involved, one of the ripest areas for disruption is really areas which are traditionally too expensive to launch. So short-term, variable-term insurance, where there is a high relative admin cost to the level of premium. A lot of volume, low value. And that's a product which is relative standard, so you can create a smart policy which administrates it and allows the premiums and the cash and the transactions to be written to the correct ledgers at a granular level. When the settlements come through, they're reconciled. So it's basically any piece of business that fits that bill.
Very good. This one is creating feedback loops. Don't switch it on. I would agree to what Peter just said. We see a lot of potential in the area of parametric insurance because of the high level of automation, and that's also the first area of insurance that we are targeting. The nice thing about blockchain is that we can realign incentives, and we can create and play around with new incentive schemes that so far work mostly on the basis of salaries and bonuses and the kind of compensation that you and we all know. On the blockchain, we can do different things. We can incentivize people to participate and to create great insurance products and great customer experiences in a different way and organized in a different way, very dynamic, very short term. And we think that parametric insurance, who of you knows what parametric insurance is? Okay, parametric insurance is insurance-like solutions or insurance solutions where the underwriting processes or the payout processes can be highly automated and decisions can be made based on data by algorithms. So that's why parametric insurance. And as I said, flight delay is our first example for that. We are expanding this into other insurance verticals with weather-based data, so weather-based insurance, bad weather, too much rain, too little rain. And one interesting area that I would like to point out is exactly like Peter said, the markets which traditional insurance companies would not address for commercial reasons. Crop insurance in developing countries, if the farmer can afford 10 cents of a premium per month, yeah, who would offer such a product? Nobody. On the blockchain, you can implement such a product, you can deploy it, and you can offer it basically at no operational costs. And that will change the life of many of those farmers that currently can't afford insurance.
Incidentally, if you Google Clyde & Cohen parametric insurance, there's an excellent report written by colleagues of mine, and you don't even have to be a paying customer to access it. So,
thank you.
So what we're seeing is that there seem to be inefficiencies between different participants in the market in terms of connecting, in terms of exchanging data. So those are the kind of areas that we're looking at, both between brokers and insurers, MGAs and syndicates, but also to the end consumer. So our platform helps in terms of that connection. And the blockchain works in the way where you don't need a trusted party in the middle which can mediate that connection. What we're seeing as well is very exciting developments in the consumer space where we've been speaking to people where insuring devices, on-demand insurance, and so on can be made very user-friendly and cost-effective using blockchain, where you can actually insure your smartphone or your camera for 2 hours as you go hiking. That will involve a lot of overheads in the traditional model, but with a blockchain that can track your device and your identity, it's definitely much more straightforward.
great. Well, that's actually answered to kind of the second question as well, and given the time, that's helpful. So I think then, and I'm asking kind of a panel audience, I guess, of startups or relatively new startups here this question, so I guess I know what the answer is. But would you say that the established London market is the use of new technology an opportunity for them, or is it a threat in terms of the new business models coming in? Maybe Stefan, if you want to go first with this one.
I think it's both. So you gave those two tips in the beginning. I would like to add a third tip. If you want to understand what the consequences of blockchain technology are for your business, you need to start using that technology. There is no way around that step. You can listen to us talking about it. Yeah? You can read a lot of reports and articles online. You can, in fact, read your whole life through articles with misleading information. This all will change as soon as you start using blockchain. There is a simple way to start using it. Buy the cryptocurrency of your choice, do a few transfers back and forth, start using one of the products that you are seeing tonight and that get mentioned tonight. You need to use it in order to understand the consequences for your business. And everything can be a threat and everything can be an opportunity. Don't ask what the blockchain can do for your business. Ask what will the role of your company and what will your role be if part of the market goes off and gets transferred onto the blockchain, onto a decentralized system. That's the much more interesting question, and I'm happy to find the answer together with you.
What he said. Plus, a lot of the threat is to not do it and wait to see what happens. A big threat is to say, well, tell you what, we'll just try a bit in our own backyard. If you try and do something on your own, in your own backyard, then you're not playing with blockchain, you're playing with a database, and you're missing the whole point. This is a solution for the end-to-end ecosystem. You need to be working with your business parties and counterparties. You need to be working together, working out what products do you want to launch alongside yours that you wouldn't otherwise have done so. Take a risk-free approach to launching your new product. You get revenue, you have no new infrastructure to build, you use a platform. You're experiencing how the blockchain takes away the admin cost of launching new products. You can launch new products quickly. And you can then, so the threat is not to try to work it with your business ecosystem. So, and I think do it fast as well. Don't hang around and be too slow.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't see it as a threat. It's important, I think. You can dive in and download stuff and start trading crypto, but I think it would help if you find a partner, such as IX Ledger, to kind of guide you a little bit and get you to a certain level before you put your salary on Bitcoin. So, find someone who can help you with the baby steps first. There's a lot of weird things going on in the blockchain space, and it's very early as well. So if you get in now, you can actually be seen as a thought leader, as someone who's engaged, and the community actually loves engaged. It's not kind of a commercial environment really. You're going to join Telegram groups, Slack groups, chat channels, and kind of being able to interact with the CEOs and the founders directly. So it's not like working with your traditional software providers. It's much more collaborative. So I would just advise get in there.
So I'm going slightly off script here, but the panel's view on it seems to me that actually it offers the opportunity to get rid of a lot of the admin, the kind of back office functions which nobody particularly enjoys or maybe are brilliant at, but the opportunities more than outweigh the risks, it seems to me, for those that are really focused on the risk transfer and the values they add to that. I don't know if that's, Stefan, is that something you'd agree with?
What's the question?
The opportunities for kind of focusing on that risk transfer analysis and getting rid of some of the headaches of the admin. It's kind of the flip side of the same coin.
And so from my perspective, there is a certain danger to that notion that it helps you to get more cost efficient, for example. Yeah, we've seen this in banking first. We are now seeing a similar phenomenon in insurance. that insurance companies see blockchain as a kind of efficiency magic bullet. Yeah? Basically, driving down cost is every manager's wet dream. Yeah? So this is something they can easily sell to their upper management. And so in order to onboard any blockchain project in a corporate innovation environment, you basically promise cost reduction. Yeah? That's, in my opinion, this falls very short of the potential of blockchain technology, which is really to create systemic change. With blockchain, we can change how the whole insurance system works, how the whole value chain of insurance gets disrupted at once. Not just one tiny part. This is not your digital broker that helps you reach customers more quickly, but with the same boring old product. This is really a fundamental change of how we think and now rethink insurance. So don't make that mistake to be part of this only seeing the cost efficiencies. That's only a very small part of the game.
Yeah, and if you add to that, look at the customer. Who's the end customer, the end policyholder? And what do you really know about that policyholder right now? Most of you don't know in real time what's happening at the front end. Using the blockchain and the distributed ledger technology, the underwriters can know in real time what kind of quotes are coming through, what kind of declinations are happening. You have the cashiers who can reconcile their ledgers with a single click of a button. The whole ecosystem changes. As an MGA, you can focus on what's your real value to the value chain. As an intermediary, as a broker, you're no longer having to spend, 50% of your headcount is going to be doing reconciliations and back end? That's ridiculous if you're a business which is focusing on understanding your clients and finding the right markets for the products. You can start to focus on what your real job is, rather than trying to clean up the mess that the industry has as its intrinsic failures.
Ingemar, anything to add?
Yeah, I think don't make it a cost-saving, cost-efficiency issue, because that is very boring and it's not going to convince anyone really. For an MGA, we're talking to a lot of MGAs at the moment, and obviously you create your own products, and that is, I think, where the blockchain could really help, right? You can actually create new models that rely on as Peter said, a more direct real-time interaction with your end customer, and that is really exciting. If you make it like kind of okay, I can cut 2 technicians out of the picture, or save some paperwork. That's part of it, but that's not the full picture, I think.
Great. So the answers were much more eloquent than the questions. So I think Stefan might describe that as the moderator's wet dream. But anyway, we'll move on. Crystal ball gazing, and in light, we've only got about 10 minutes left. So how do you think the market might look differently in the next, what differences might the market see in the next, say, 5 years in terms of using this technology? So Stefan again.
I have been, I'm not sure if I want to be a moderator's wet dream, I'm sorry. But with these predictions, it's always difficult, yeah? You should not do predictions. The last time I made a blunt prediction, I was quoted on Twitter and social media for being completely stupid and crazy. I think, let me quote someone else. Yeah? So maybe we can look at it in terms of GDP. Yeah? How much of the GDP will be on a blockchain in 5 years, yeah, or in 10 years? That's an interesting question. Look it up online. I won't give you that number. Look it up.
I think one of the looking ahead 5 years, when you go into a room and say, what do you know about blockchain? People say, I don't care. My business model now hinges around the fact that I can do business with my counterparties frictionlessly and trust-free business, and my customers understand me and I understand my customers better.
Well, in my view, you know, the blockchain, the ecosystem is a global play. So, you know, it's very easy for people who are in the market at the moment to reach areas that, you know, might not have been cost-effective or profitable to go to without the blockchain, right? So that could be the big change here, that you can actually scale your businesses in a way that you couldn't do without it. And you know, in 5 years, that's a lifetime in this space, right? So who knows? Telepathy.
So what then, in your view, needs to happen for the kind of the technology, and I say 5 years is complete lifetime here, for the technology to be embraced fully by the market? Is it events like this? Is it trailblazers? Is it cross-industry participation? What do you think are the kind of key requirements?
So I think what really needs to happen for mass adoption is insurance. So you need to be able to get insurance for your crypto assets, and that's not possible at the moment. So we have put out a request for comment, a specification proposal for insurable wallets, and we think that this will be one of the major roadblocks that need to be removed. Yeah, so you want to be able, as a custodian, as a professional user of cryptocurrencies, as a fund, as a crypto fund, who is holding crypto assets on behalf of, you want to be able to get insurance for those funds. And at the moment, this is very, very difficult. And I'm looking at you guys. Yeah? Would you insure a crypto wallet that holds 100 million in assets right now? A piece of software that is, I see shaking heads saying thank you for that. And that's very true. That's exactly what we see in the market. It's very hard to get a policy, and it's very hard to get affordable premiums. So we are trying to do an effort to push the prices down for that. And I appreciate your help in doing that.
Yeah, so what needs to happen? Need to give it a go. I think that there's a big dialogue to be had with the regulators to ensure that they are really truly comfortable with the level of transparency, the level of auditability, and removing a lot of the controls which now become unnecessary in your compliance regime. It's going to take a while for the regulators to get there, but get there they will, because they'll see that they get clean answers throughout and they have the full transparency. But without the compliance sign-off and the regulator sign-off, it's going to be a tough hill to climb.
Someone told me that a lot of people have to die or retire before it happens, and maybe that's true, right? So we speak to a lot of millennials and people around 30, and they're all very enthusiastic, but then they go to their bosses, and it just stops there. So I think it's a generational thing, and there's a technology advancement thing and a regulatory thing as well. So it has to come together. And maybe in a year or two, we'll get to that point.
I think it's interesting on the regulatory perspective. The FTA here, I've been pretty open-minded, I think, turning back to the tips. I've been very impressed by their recent papers on kind of the potential to embrace this technology. So I think the opportunity is there, certainly within the UK and the London market, to do that. So again, very conscious of time. So kind of last question. Any tips from kind of your experience within the market and now kind of on the edge of the market in terms of those who are obviously interested here looking at embracing this new technology? Any tips other than the ones Stefan used the technology? Anything else in terms of bringing about that organizational change?
Organizational change, yeah. As I said, I'm not a big fan of corporate innovation. I would like to see more traditional insurance companies, more established players cooperate with startups on an equal playing ground. Yeah? What we see a lot is insurtechs that are really getting pulled over by the incumbents, which are getting forced into contracts that just don't work out for the startup and are not very sustainable and are not very fair. And we think there is a huge asymmetry here in the relations between the traditional insurance companies and the startups. And we would like to see some change in that.
Yeah, and there is a huge amount of experience in how insurance is done. There's a lot of enthusiasm to change that. The balance to be struck is don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. Use the experience, temper it with the enthusiasm and the need to do something different.
I have nothing to add to that. That's exactly that. I mean, I think it will happen in a combination with sort of you getting more involved, and perhaps there's this cultural change. So people are getting more familiar with bitcoins and so on, and it just feels a little bit more familiar and not so scary. And I think we're halfway there.
Okay, well that's we're pretty much on 7 o'clock, so we have a good 10 minutes for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions for any of the panel members, please kind of raise your hand, and the panel will do their best to answer them, I'm sure.
Could you shout out your question?
Shout it, I'll try and...
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I want to thank the panel. It was very interesting to listen. Oh, thank you. I want to thank you, the panel. It was very interesting to listen. And I represent an investment network here in UK, and we have 35,000 investors who are interested in investing in blockchain companies. And I'm talking to people in different industry sectors. I want to have from different, like fintech, car sharing. There's even blockchain and dating. It was quite interesting to read the white paper, and we have social media and everything. But we do not have anything from InsurTech. So I was interested to see if you would want to come there. It's an event on 14th of April. You can exhibit, and we also have like an ICO central. You can go and pitch.
So, I think you can answer that one separately, maybe, for the availability. So yeah, thank you.
I'll ask a real question. So how would you deal with the insurance industry and the need for innovation within it, but the resistance within the industry at present to just get whatever their current propositions are, right, versus the innovation of blockchain and how that technology is going to really improve what they do going forward?
I think, yeah. So thanks for that question. I think that's a very good question. I like to quote Buckminster Fuller on that. If you want real change, don't try to tackle the existing system. Build something new beside it that makes the old system obsolete.
Thank you.
Nothing to add.
Any further questions? I think so, and then I'll...
Can we hand through the microphone?
It's going to be a bit long because I haven't really collected my thoughts. To be honest, we all go to Lloyd's and we see the amount of paper there. We all see the amount of paper in our own companies. So definitely going towards a paper-free environment will definitely reduce our carbon prints. But on the other hand, there are so many discussions on the energy consumption of blockchain and the carbon print of it. So what is your thoughts and research on it first? And the second one is like every single company is actually trying to find a meaningful corporate social responsibility project, which could be one of those projects that insurance companies can undertake with the money that actually they save from the admin costs. That's a thought that I had. What is your research on it?
Ingemar, do you want?
So in terms of the energy consumption, it's required what we call mining, right? So how much does it cost to keep the banks running to achieve that same verification, or PayPal or MasterCard? they take a lot of energy as well. So I think that's one issue, but the blockchain is moving towards a different model where that's not required. That's one thing. But also a lot of us are not using that kind of mining, which requires a lot of electricity, because that's only needed if you have a public blockchain that anyone can post stuff on and use. So I think that's one thing.
I don't.
Sure, absolutely. In terms of the mining, open blockchains, public blockchains with the mining have a huge energy consumption. The private blockchains, which are closed, have a much, much lower footprint. Moving to the other side of the question, which is if we're taking so much of the cost out of the industry, where's that going to go? Obviously, some of that is going to increase revenues and increase margins. Some of that may even reduce gross premium. There is also an opportunity for other ways of deploying that. But I imagine stakeholders will want to see a better return, and to sell as the competition grows, gross premiums will start to drop.
Stefan?
I think the energy consumption and carbon footprint of blockchain is just, I'm sorry, a lame excuse not to deal with it. This is what do you call it, childhood illnesses of a very new and very immature technology. Unfortunately, the best consensus mechanism that we were able to come up with as a community is very energy consuming. There are better ones out there. This is not as well tested as the proof of work that uses so much energy. But there are these concepts out there, some of them are getting implemented, so there are much, much better ways and much more energy efficient ways to do practically the same thing. And this will go away. Yeah? So I would not worry about it. Yeah? It will pass.
Question at the front here.
Hey guys, firstly thank you for coming and speaking to us tonight. So I'm a bit of a blockchain noob, so this might be a newbie question, but as I understand it, the power of blockchain is through the amount of people you have on it, and more people, the more consensus you have. So what does it mean? We've got 3 people in front of us selling us, I presume, different blockchain solutions. I mean, if we have a market in London which has a myriad of people using different blockchain solutions, isn't that just a problem in itself?
Ingemar, do you want to go first?
Well, I think that's the nature of innovation, that many people want to try it out. And, it was the same with the internet, right? Google didn't emerge until you had the first generation of other search engines. So that will happen. But I think also there is a way for different blockchain vendors and implementations to coexist and happily interact with each other as well. So no single blockchain provider is going to come in and do everything. So it's just a matter of working out how you interact with each other. And that is really what it's all about anyway. So
I would always go with the solution that is more open. Yeah, so we are very committed to the open source idea, and that is more inclusive and more transparent. Don't lock yourself in with proprietary solutions, especially not in that field. And in the midterm, we will see standards emerge. Yeah, so there are a lot of standards. Blockchain is a very good technology to build standards and to enable standards. And those are not made or prescribed. These standards emerge. And you need to listen and you need to look at what standards are out there already. Yeah? We have a few proposals for standards for insurance processes too. And yeah, we will see what the market takes. And it's very easy to integrate different solutions on one blockchain or even across blockchains now.
Yeah, and the solution for interoperability, while it's not here now, it will emerge. There is a huge corpus of work of insurance standards which can be drawn on to define how you transact in a similar way.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of questions at the back. So, do you want to? You can grab the mic. That might help. Thanks.
Hi, good evening. My question is in relation to the tokens and whether the tokens are essential parts of your blockchains. And if so, is the value of the token of importance in the sense that a higher value, for example, with Bitcoin created congestion in the system and therefore a problem with mining and the fees, transaction fees and all that. So whether you prefer for your token to have a low value in order to disincentivize the holding of the token just as a commodity, let's say.
If you look at the business process of insurance, understand what value could a token take in that process. One of the big challenges of using tokens is how do you convert a fiat currency asset into a crypto token, and how then do you reserve in that? So our approach, we're not using tokens. We're using the distributed ledger technology to move value, digital identity, immutability, and the smart policies to run the business. In our world, we don't have a need for tokens.
So we use tokens. It's part of our model, but it's not the only way you can, for example, pay for commissions. Our tokens makes it more convenient and more frictionless to transact, and you can lock in your transaction costs in one way. But you also have the flip side of that of course crypto tokens are quite volatile. But as we heard yesterday, right, from the chairman of CFTC, right, you know, in the commodities world, right, commodity assets are also very volatile. So it's not like that can't be handled. There are mechanisms to smoothen that volatility. Stefan?
I think it's very important to differentiate and to clearly differentiate between value and price. What we are seeing in the markets is volatility of prices, and the underlying values are very different. And IX Ledger is doing a very good job with their token model, and there is a clear value to that. We also propose tokens, different types of tokens. I think there will be always types of tokens, and in particular in the insurance industry we see utility tokens, so where the platform or the protocol that is fueled by this token, the more usage you have on this platform, the higher the value of your token. You know, there is a tight coupling between usage, so policies written, risk written, and amount of users, number of users, and the value of the token. Another type of token are security tokens, and that's also very interesting for insurance. So we have proposed something like insurance-linked securities, where you basically tokenize risk and make risk very easily transferable and tradable in a standard way on the blockchain, and this provides a whole lot of benefits. So far, and correct me if I'm wrong, we have not seen any implementation of insurance-linked securities on the blockchain yet, at least no public one. But it will be very interesting when those come out, and I know there are some projects working on that. Gary knows more.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. We have one at the back, so if you don't mind,
Yeah, sure.
the microphone, that would be great. Thank you.
So a couple of questions ago, Stefan, you mentioned about kind of open source, and that being, I think, what we would all consider the preferred method that we adopt, not to be kind of insular, and it gains a lot of value by being used across multiple kind of different companies and things like that. Where is the incentive to adopt it early on in that case? Insurance is typically quite archaic in its willingness to adopt this sort of technology, and surely it would be easier to wait for the majority of the Lloyd's market to adopt it, and would this potentially be a bit of a stumbling block?
Thank you. What an excellent question. Thank you so much. I fully agree with you. Yeah? In terms of from the perspective of a traditional insurance company, your best strategy is to do nothing. Yeah? And just watch what the others are doing. You have years of runway in the bank. Yeah? We've talked to reinsurance companies, we've talked to life insurance companies. It's astonishing. Yeah? There is no pain. There is no need to change anything. This is very short-term thinking. And in the long run, this will be taken over by more open, more transparent systems. I strongly believe that. How many, let me give you an example from another technology-based business model. How many proprietary and commercial internet browsers do you have out there? None. And I think that at least for some areas of insurance, we will see something similar. So the incentive for an insurance company to look into open source blockchain protocols for insurance is not to be obsolete in 5 years.
20 seconds, Peter and Ingmar, maybe?
No, I agree with that, yeah.
There we go, 5 seconds, fantastic. I think we're going to call it a day there. We're 1 minute over time, but thank you. I think you'll join me, panelists. That was great. So thank you very much.